A good view of the St. Lawrence River is desirable, sought after. However, some Clayton residents are worried their view could disappear with a new proposed housing project, and we hear from the developer. He defends the project tonight to 7 News reporter Chad Charette.
Along Union and Theresa Streets in Clayton, folks can see the St. Lawrence River from their front porch. But that could be changing. A developer is planning to build a series of 9 3-story townhouses along the perimeter of the French Bay Marina. The worries are it'll obstruct the view and lower some people's property values.
We got nothing against the townhouses. There's, it's development. It's, just like downtown, you got to make room for development. But, we hate to lose the view here.
Others are a bit more negative in their stance towards the project. Meredith Ziegler believes it puts residents in an unfair spot.
They're not just building a property there. They're building a property there that's going to infringe on maybe people who can't afford to build $1 million home or purchase $1 million home of enjoying the natural beauty of this place.
We did manage to track down the site's developer, Jeremy Kellogg, and he had a simple retort for those concerned about losing their view of the water.
They should buy waterfront property if they want to look at the waterfront.
Kellogg owns French Bay Marina, and he argues that if it weren't for a casino that he demolished in 2010, no one along Theresa Street would have been able to see the water in the first place.
That's not waterfront property now. It wasn't then, it isn't now, and it was obstructed for at least 100 years. A big building sat here.
Town of Clayton Planning Board officials refuse to comment or share public documents with 7 News pertaining to the project. Chad Charette, 7 News.